Amazing. So in total, how many times did you apply?
I
Or
would say
yeah,
3 times. I got it the third time.
amazing.
I would say Microsoft has been a company that I've been applying to for since 2020 during the pandemic. I
Wow.
made it a requirement to be applying every year.
Out of all of the decisions that you have, all the places you could have gone, why tech? And why, even more specifically, software and cloud?
This is something that if I could get a skill in this thing, I would be guaranteed job for the most part. Caleb.certified. Certified. Follow him.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Certified podcast. I'm your host, caleboni.certified, and this, once again, is the podcast where we interview tech creators and tech professionals who inspire us on our journeys in the tech industry. We've been gone for a few weeks, but now we're back with another podcast. Our guest today is a cloud solutions architect at Microsoft. He is also a content creator who goes by the name The Senior Dev. He shares industry knowledge to help aspiring software engineers and cloud engineers on their journeys in the tech industry. Jubril, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Caleb. Thank you for inviting me. How are you doing today?
Of course. I'm doing great.
That's
So
amazing.
let's get into it. And to start off, I'll just tell you to give an introduction, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me once again, and hello, audience. My name is Jubril. I'm a cloud engineer at Microsoft. I've been doing this for the past as a cloud engineer. I've been doing that for the past 2 years. Prior to that, I've been a software engineer for over 9 years of my career life. And here I am today. We're glad to share my stories and journey with you, the audience.
Amazing. Cool. So first things first, we want to know about your journey. You know, I've looked into some of your videos on your YouTube channel, The Senior Dev, and I've been able to see a little bit of what you do and kind of the trajectory of how you got to where you are. But if you can briefly walk us through your journey in tech and how you became, you know, a cloud engineer or cloud solutions architect at Microsoft, that would be great. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's been a long time coming. It's been a minute. So prior to me ending up as a cloud architect, I've been a software engineer. I worked my way through from the junior dev days to mid developer to senior engineer, engineer lead, and then I started taking certifications regarding Azure cloud services. I took a bunch of certification from AZ900 to Azure administrator, cloud solution architect. And then I spoke to my manager, applied for the role for the cloud solution architect. I got that in 2022. But speaking of my journey exactly, I would say it's not been a smooth ride.
Mm,
Um, as a young kid from Lagos, Nigeria, I remember when I was trying to get admission into college back in 2009 or thereabout. I knew I wanted to do computer science because as a young kid, I'm a gamer. I'm a big gamer, right? So I'm
mm,
just kind of like a little bit digital in my mind. So I wrote my first code using C language way back when I got introduced to C Turbo Compiler. Then I knew, okay, I need to study computer science as my undergrad major. But then back then in Nigeria, as at 28, 29, there was no university in Nigeria that was offering that course.
mm.
We have a whole lot of them now, by the way. So I had to look outside of the country. I got my admission in University of Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, where I
Wow.
got my bachelor's degree in software engineering. But then it was more of a theoretical learning and all that. We did few codings and hands-on, but it's not. I wouldn't say that was enough to get me in the industry. But I just had the degree back then. So I went back home to Nigeria. I got my first gig as a junior software engineer at a telecom company called Etisalat. Now it's Nine Mobile, but it used to be Etisalat back then. I was working there as a junior engineer support. But then that's when I actually got into real life, coding and seeing how things work. Even though
Yeah.
I was filled with imposter syndrome back then, I didn't know what was going on, but that was my first exposure to real life industry tech. And I worked there for like about 3 to 4 years. Then I figured I would go advance my skill. I knew this is what I wanted to do. I'll go advance my skill. I applied for masters in software engineering at University of Central Missouri here in the United States. I got my admission, came to United States, and run my masters in software engineering, where I did a lot of advanced courses in software engineering, advanced programming, advanced big data, like everything I've known in an advanced level. And that was what actually kind of like ironed out my curiosities, my imaginations, my
Yeah.
ideologies, and the little experience I got already. And that was when I knew, okay, this I feel pretty comfortable. I stopped having those imposter syndrome. Then after college, I got my first role, fresh out of college at the World Bank in DC, and I learned a lot on that job. Pretty much that was my journey to tech. But I knew while I was in college in Missouri,
Mm.
I was parallelly working with another bootcamp software. It's called Italize, a bootcamp company.
Okay.
I joined their services, and then I was actually learning, doing real life project with them while doing my masters. So that, in combination with the bootcamp and the college degree, kind of like put me on the right state of mind to be very confident with my skills.
Mm.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but pretty much those are my journey to
Yes.
tech.
Yeah. Amazing. And that's an incredible journey, and that is over like a span of around 9 years, right?
Right.
Incredible. So what some of the things I really picked up on is that you went through loads of different things before getting to where you are now, and of course you went through your bachelor's, your master's, and also a boot camp. So
Right.
there's a lot of learning, and it's not just the education system and the university. There's also the boot camp that goes more deep into the specific skills that you want. And
Oh yes.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yes. I just wanted to add the fact that I'm not trying to knock out the fact that university is a very good resource to get your skill up, right. But
Mm,
for me, I just, at the point in time, I just hit the reality, like I need to have something industrial like experience.
yep.
Some kind of experience that is outside of giving me some assignment or some getting
Mm,
prepared for some examination and all that. Something that is being done in the real world that I need to prepare for. And I think that was what triggered me to ensuring that I get some pre-experience, especially
yep.
here in the US, before hitting the job market. So I don't come in the job market as a novice, but that's just a personal instinct.
Yeah,
Sorry for the
amazing.
interruption.
And
Go ahead.
and definitely I could say I went the university route as well, and I also after university had to really dive in and dig deep and learn the Azure sort of stack and the Azure stuff outside of university. I didn't learn anything about that in university, so you've got to go outside of just your university degree. If the audience watching, you guys are at university, learning outside of
Exactly.
that is really really helpful. So another side note I wanted to ask: what type of games did you play growing up?
Oh my God! I started from way back from there's this thing we used to call the Game Boy. Then
Oh
we
yeah,
went all the way to Nintendos. I
yep,
remember using my savings to buy Sega back then. I was
yep.
playing Contract, Super Mario,
Wow.
soccer, just any game that was in trend. I
Yeah,
always like
yeah, yeah.
go to my friend, borrow the cartridges, and put it in, play it. Use a whole lot of them, and then there came the PlayStation One, and then I bought that also. It keeps going on PlayStation 2 till this day. I'm still a gamer, so
Wow.
so it's
Only
just something
only
that.
like only millennials and early Gen Z know about the Game Boy Advance. The kids these days
Oh
don't
my
know.
god, no, no, we need to put those games in some archive in a museum or something,
For
so
real.
we can tell the story about it.
For real. That's amazing. Are you looking for a reliable cloud service provider with developer friendly service plans without any tripwires or trap holes? Let me introduce you to UpCloud. UpCloud is a pioneering European cloud provider that does not charge for internet traffic. That's right, no hidden fees for data transfer, offers 24/7 real human support, and has global availability within 13 data centers around the world. Whether you're an individual developer or a growing business, UpCloud's cloud native product portfolio covers your unique needs. From small projects to larger deployments, offering high performance servers with easy self-service options. UpCloud wants to support your cloud journey and offer you €50 free credit along with a 7-day free trial. Sign up now with my promo code caleboni50 and go to the link in my description. Thank you to UpCloud for sponsoring this video. So moving on, let's talk about why tech. I mean, there's so many areas that you could go into, right? You
Right.
have a college degree, you definitely have the ability to go through, studying and doing really well and that sort of thing. And so the world could be your oyster, really. So
Right.
out of all of the decisions that you have, all the places you could have gone, why tech? And why, even more specifically, software and cloud?
Wow, great question. If you ask me, I would say as at back then, I didn't even know tech was going to be like this big for me. It was just something that I knew that um, I wanted to do just because I know there will be it's in high demand as at back then.
Yeah,
There was not a lot of software engineering, well, from the part of what I came from, as at back then. So I figured this is something that if I could get a skill in this thing, I will be guaranteed job for the most part. There's high job security, and then
yeah,
also there is career growth in terms of consistent learning. So one good thing about tech is you have the ability to innovate and create something from scratch just based off idea. And it boosts your creativities, and also it will give me global opportunities. My opportunities would not be limited to just the country where I'm
yeah,
located. Wherever I'm in the world, I could work remotely and all that. So it's a lot of things and collaborations and community. For example, in Stack Overflow, I just randomly go there, read some questions, see if I can resolve it. I post an answer back, or I do go there to get answers to whatever question I have. So it's just like having that community feelings of belonging and all that. And speaking of entrepreneurial opportunities,
mm,
so I feel like that is another tool that could actually get me to build my own startup. If I decide to do that, I don't need to have any extra kind of hand. I just need to get that skill and the necessary resources that I'll need to build up. So I feel tech will give me that um, autonomy to just do whatever I want to do. Is a lot that comes with it, but it
yeah.
gives me a path to financial freedom. So that is why I choose tech.
Wow, that's incredible, and that's not something I hear many people say. But I have recently seen a lot of people going in and creating their own startups based on the skills that they've had with learning and being software engineers in industry, which is incredible. Um, so moving on, I wanted to ask you, what is the biggest challenge that you faced in this industry?
Um, hmm. I have to rack through my memory lane, but I would say by off the top of my head, the number one thing would be like keeping up with the with the speed at which technology is advancing.
Yeah,
Because one moment you might be very good at a specific tech now in the next couple of years, that specific tech is outdated, is obsolete. So you have to learn what is current at that point in time, and you just can sit and sleep on the skills you have. It's a
yeah,
continuous learning field. So that is a kind of challenge because sometimes you might not just be in the mood to learn, but you have to if you want to stay relevant in your in your field. And also another challenge will be based on my work experience, dealing with legacy systems, systems
mm,
that you were not involved in in the foundational creation of it. So you have to when you're handed when you inherit such kind of system, it usually takes a little bit of time, like 6 weeks, usually 2 months, 3 months before you grasp everything going on there. Then you know that you're on autopilot. But within those period, you have to struggle and understand what does the system does. Where is it coming from? Where's the current state? Where is it going? And see where you can fit into the puzzle. So those usually takes sometimes. And sometimes you might not be so lucky. You inherit some very complex projects.
yeah,
And trust me, those are one of the worst time of being software engineers. And you have to really work your way through. And the crazy part is you for the most part you usually don't get somebody to tell you how or what. You just have to figure it out as a software engineer. um,
wow,
I would say sometimes work-life balance could be a challenge, but recently I've always been able to figure a way out around that because speaking of being a software engineer in tech in general, especially when you own a system, it's not about 9 to 5. It's about if anything is wrong with the system, oh, we are calling Caleb. He's the one in charge of the system. If
yeah,
anything is wrong with the system, so sometimes you might have to wake up 2 a.m. in the night just to figure something out, especially when there's a system in production and all that. So security and privacy is another challenge. You have to always be on top of your game in terms of security of whatever application you're handling and the privacy of it. So it's a whole chain of challenges. It just depends on the specific, the unique system you're dealing with and all that. It's really endless. But as for me, those are what I can rack up off the top of
Yeah.
my head.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of challenges, and I'm sure if we give you another 5 minutes, you come up with like 500
Oh my god,
challenges if you really
it's
wanted to.
endless.
Another one of the ones you mentioned that I can relate to is just the legacy pieces of
System.
work or things or systems.
Oh
Say
yes,
even in my field, I say someone's been working on something for 6 months, and now they want you to continue that piece of work to really pick up and do what that person was doing from starting from zero, where it takes a while. And
yes.
also, depending on where you are, maybe there's great documentation on it that you just have to follow. Maybe there's not. You might you might just be
If
left
there's no
to
documentation in there, you have to go all the way back and do a lot of reverse engineering and all
exactly
that. It is not fun, but you have to do it.
exactly. It's a lot of work. Another thing I wanted to ask you whilst we have you is about learning to code from scratch. I know there's loads of people who are learning to code, and this is not even like people in tech. This is everyone, right? Everyone is doing a course on Python right now, or on some sort of programming language, and a lot of the time it's people who are learning from the very beginning, right? So for you who's had that experience, what sort of advice would you give for someone who's learning to code from scratch? What's the best way to do that?
Very good question. So learning to code from scratch, what I usually advise people is you need to have the interest. You wouldn't just say, oh, because people are coding, I want to code. Trust me, you will get frustrated. It
Mm,
might be fun at the start, but when you're getting high into the upper aspect of software development, you need to have a reason for doing it. For me, it was out of curiosity, like how does this work, how if I click this button, what does it do to take me to the next page and all that. So the interest has to be there. You really need to want it so bad. Now when you have that interest, you need to set a clear goal, and then that's where you start doing your research and start in the process of research. You will see different languages. You could get confused, but I would say just choose one language at least for a start. The programming is everything is the same pattern in general, but it's different syntax from different languages. But you can use all language to be whatever you want to do. So set a clear goal. Um, Pick a language. Or in my case, I
mm,
love C sharp for server side languages. Pick a language and be very good at that language. Trust me, the language is just for you to understand how programming works. And then once you get that logic right, you can replicate it in different languages. All you just need to do is understand the syntaxes of those other languages. So pick a language is number two. And you need to be very consistent with reading programming books and video tutorials. You can go into either YouTube or different resources and look at how to learn programming as a learner or beginner. That can give you an idea into how it works. Learning syntax of whatever language you're learning is very important. You need to understand the basics of those syntax. And one other thing is joining community as well, programming community. That is what will keep you updated in different topics in programming language, and also will keep your curiosity when you see things you've not heard before. You can in the community or forums, you can easily learn about it. And the very important part is you need to know how to debug your code. Debugging is like 70% of the work you'll be doing as a software programmer. And
mm.
also it will give you the skill and ability to trace where you're having errors in your code. So I would say putting all that together for a start. There's a whole lot of things, but those for a beginner, I'll just keep it at that. Set a clear goal, pick a programming language, learn how to debug, join a community, and stay curious. Read books and watch video tutorials. Once you can do all that for 6 months, trust me, you what you have to do next will come to you by default.
Amazing, amazing. Those are some incredible steps for anyone who's learning to code from scratch, or even if maybe you've done a bit of coding in the past and you want to start again and really go for it this time. Those are some great steps to follow. Some of the things that I kind of picked up on with that is honestly knowing your reason that you're doing it, knowing your motivation, being actually curious about coding or learning what you're learning is super important, because honestly, if you don't have that, you're just going to do it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks
Yeah,
maybe,
and then
and
you dump it.
then
You'll
you're
be
just going
done
to
with
forget
it.
everything that you just learned. Um, and another thing was oh, what was it? I forgot the second thing. If it comes back to me, I'll
Yeah,
talk about that as well. But
yeah.
these are some
Understanding the
incredible
syntax and the
steps.
basics. Yeah,
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So moving on, a really big thing I wanted to talk to you about whilst we have you here
right.
is just about Microsoft. When we talk about Microsoft, obviously massive, massive company. So many people's dream job is the job that you're working in right now, um, which is incredible. And so a lot of people want to be where you are, and we want to talk about how to break into a company like Microsoft. Um, and and of course, I'm someone who's worked with loads of Microsoft technologies in the past, and I understand, lots of Azure stuff and M365 and all this cloud-based stuff with Microsoft. And there's loads of other people who are on that path, and the next step, they want to break into Microsoft, and work there. Another thing at Microsoft, for you to be able to work in that company,
Right.
um, there has to be a certain way that you package yourself. It can't just be about the skills you have. It's also about the way you communicate and your soft skills and everything else. So how do you break into a company like Microsoft, and how do you stand out amongst all that competition?
Yes. Oh my God, that's a really good one. So I would say Microsoft has been a company that I've been applying to for since 2020 during the pandemic. I
Wow.
made it a requirement to be applying every year. So
Wow.
the first couple of years I didn't get in. That was fresh out. Like I said, fresh out of college. I got my first opportunity at the World Bank in Washington D.C. And after a while, I got a bigger role in a Bank of America, um, then which gave me more sense of responsibilities and even exposed me to more skill set. Now, I applied again for Microsoft in 2021. 2020, by the way, I didn't get accepted. I applied for software engineering role. 2021, I did not get accepted also. 2022, I tried again, and then I applied for a senior software engineer. I went through a series of interviews. So a company like Microsoft requires my interview process was like about 4 to 5 processes, and initially it was a call from the HR, followed by a technical interview by one of the hiring managers. And then so the funny part is the technical interview. I was so prepared for it. I was lead coding. I was trying to do the regular algorithms and data structures. But when I got on the interview, it was more of like a technical question, like trying to understand my experience. So in my mind, I was ready to code, but it was more talking about what have you done with APIs, what have you done with this, what have you done with that. So I spoke about that, and I was thinking like, was that it? Well, that sounds pretty easier than what I've been experiencing. Then I was moved to the third stage, which was more like really intense coding. I was less prepared for that, but then
Mm.
I just had to use my personal experience to navigate through that. It was 3 stages of algorithm and data structures. I was able to track that, and then the fourth stage was more like system design, which I scaled through. I've been doing a lot of system design prior to that. I would say all thanks to the experience I've had prior to the third trial in Microsoft, applying in Microsoft. And the fifth stage was just having a behavioral discussion with some set of hiring managers. Like you said, it's not just about the technical aspect of things. Your
Mm.
composure matters. Your approach to solutions and your approach to questions also matters. I think what they are looking for was, your thought process. It doesn't really matter what you come up with. It's just like the way you handle the question or the problem given to you and how you arrive at the solution. So your thought process really matters a lot in what they're looking for. I would say the technical skills is about just 30% of it.
Mm.
Your communication skills, your thought process, and your ability to decipher problems even without being told. Or if you're able to resolve a problem, ability to also suggest a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not just about writing code, you want to write quality code. So the time complexity, you want to consider the memory usage, you want to consider optimization of your code also. So a lot comes into the picture. And this, I would say, took me years of preparation or having some experience prior to
Yep.
into interview. And that explained why I was not able to get the role from the first and second time I applied. And I got in 2022, and it's just been like a smooth ride from then. But
Amazing.
it's really internally, it's really challenging. You have to always come up with something new. One day you're working with one framework, and then there's a new version of that framework. You have to migrate all your projects to that new framework. It's an endless process, and it's really interesting.
Amazing. So in total, how many times did you apply?
I
Or
would say
yeah,
3 times. I got it the third time. I got it the third time.
amazing, amazing, amazing. So I think that's like a pattern with like big tech companies. You need to do it. You can't just one time you see. I regret to inform you, and you're done.
No, if that is the case, everyone would be there.
It's true. It's true. And for anyone who that is, their goal and their dream job, if you do get a rejection on your first go, just know that
Don't give up.
most of the people I've spoken to at Microsoft, even Google, they've had multiple applications before they've actually got in. Some people up to six, seven, 7 times. They're applying
Yes.
every opportunity they get, and increasing their skills every time and getting feedback and going again.
Oh
And
yes,
I
I have
guess
a
that
colleague that got it. Sorry, I have a colleague that got it the 10th time of try. I just want
wow,
to put it out there.
amazing, and that's amazing. I think that's really what you have to look at for everything you're doing. It's not just about getting into big companies and Microsoft, but whether it's a different company you're applying for, or whether it's even the work you're doing that you're struggling with, you just gotta go again.
Oh
You've
yes,
gotta get feedback and go again with whatever you're doing.
yes. You have to keep trying to break the wall, and until you
Mm,
get in.
amazing. Cool. The next question I wanted to ask you, which I ask every single person that comes onto this podcast, if you have one, tell us one interesting career story, whether it's good or it's bad. One interesting career story that you faced during the time in your career.
Oh yes, I would say it's a combination of the good and the bad. But I'll take that as one of my, one of the time where I was propelled to the higher, upper aspect of my career. So it was at a point where I was at the World Bank, and I got this role at the World Bank. I was more like a mid-level developer. I mean, not like a junior, but I wasn't like doing bigger stuff like deployments either. I was handling APIs and all that. So I felt so comfortable with that role. I thought I've had enough experience and all that. And a recruiter reached out to me from Bank of America that they have a role for a senior software engineer using .NET Core and a lot of deployments roles in that job description. So I applied for the role. I did the interview. I was able to crack the interview. It was a smooth ride. I thought it's going to be the same thing I was doing in World Bank. And when I got into Bank of America, I was tasked to lead a team of 7 developers, 7 senior developers.
Wow.
Recall I was coming in as a mid-level developer, right? And I have to
Mm,
lead a team of 7 senior developers. So that puts me in a spot where I have to always be at the top of my game. And
yeah.
then what I was doing in Bank of America was building a framework. We call it the Merrill Lynch framework. So not like writing applications. So the framework I was building was more like what the programmers will use to write their application. Because usually you are not allowed to use external open source libraries. We have to build the library internally, and then
Yeah.
developers can use it. So I was kind of like building that entire framework. I have never done that in my life, and that was like a new exposure to different aspects of programming for me, like building an entire framework, and then the developers are using the library. So that kept me really at the top of my game. And I would say that was the point where I got exposed that I would say that I've seen everything in the .NET framework, because I stretched all my abilities and technical skills to be able to, deliver that project. I work with great team as well. So that was a turning point, because I was the person that all developers would be reaching out to if they're having any issues with any library. So I also always go back to the framework and fix the bug so that they can use the libraries and all that. And that was the part where I knew, okay, I feel like I'm very comfortable being a programmer at this point. Like there's nothing else that could really face me or make me feel like I'm not capable of that. So I guess that was a very huge turning point for me. Applying for a role that is bigger than the experience I've
Mm,
ever had. And that kept me in a position where I will always have to be at the top of my game. When everyone is
yes.
sleeping in the middle of the night, I'm still fixing bug, I'm learning, I'm reading tutorials, I'm doing all that. So that really is a phase in my life that I'll never forget. And that was even what gave me more confidence to resolve any issues that come my way. And maybe that's what got me into Microsoft, because then I started seeing any
Wow.
question or any problem
That's really
as
impressive.
yeah, as something that I could handle. So that's a huge turning point in my career.
No way. There is just no way. Some of you guys have been watching this far and have not subscribed to the channel. Others have yet to even like the video. And for the people watching on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, some of you have not even rated the podcast. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you got any value, like, subscribe, and rate the podcast on whatever streaming platform. All right, let's get right back to the video. Amazing, amazing. That's really impressive. I think it's to really go out of your comfort zone like that. I I know, like for me, like when I'm looking at new roles and stuff like this, I've got to be like, ooh, what type of work will I be doing in this? Have I done this before? But also, will I be doing something way out of my depths? And a lot of the times, I see roles that I'm like, wow, great salary, great everything,
Oh
but
yes,
the senior the level of um it might be a bit too senior, but
yeah,
for you, your story really shooting ahead to that senior role. um
exactly. And I think jumping from one level to another requires breaking a kind of challenges. Like you have to do
yeah,
something you've never done before that can actually put you on that role that you're aiming for. I think that's how it's been. Maybe completing a specific project, or in my experience, recently, how I feel like a lot of people have been getting promotion based on things I've seen is you have to handle that specific project that either your manager is having issues with, just man it and then knock it out. And then I think that puts you on the spot. And then in whatever project you're working on, just look for one aspect of the organization or the project that other engineers are trying to avoid. You tackle it and then
wow,
handle it, and that will really put you on the spot. You get the attention you want from the right people in the organization. So that's
amazing,
something that has really worked for me.
amazing, amazing. Thank you for that amazing story. Definitely inspiring for me, and surely for the audience as well. So moving on, I wanted to touch on your content creation. um, and for me, I've been creating content on my career and what I've been learning and all this stuff for the past, I would say, year and a half or year and 7 months. And I know that you've got your channel up and are starting to create, or have been creating, some really valuable content on there, that people can look at and get inspired by. So yeah, I just want to ask you about your content creation journey and what inspired you to really create that content.
Yes, I think I'm at the point where I just feel initially I wasn't taking the content creation thing serious. It was just me. Whenever I learned something new, I always want to. I have a personal principle that if you learn something new, if you don't know it enough to teach other people, then you really don't know it yet. You have to know it to the point where you can actually explain it to other people. Then it will be registered in my mind. So that was the way I started the whole YouTube thing. Like, okay, when I learn something new, I try to like pretend I'm teaching some audience about it. I recorded just archiving it on my YouTube pages. But recently, I thought that it's about time where I start, dishing out tech contents, things that resonate with my personal journey into tech and things I do on a daily basis. Just documenting my journey into tech. So I really wish I've been doing this from way back, but way back is just me learning something new, archiving it on my channel. I was not even worried about the viewers and all that. It was just me documenting it. But lately I got into a state of mind like I really want to document my tech journey, and maybe one day when I retire I want to look back and come through my YouTube channel and just go through the memory lane and all that. So I would say that was what actually triggered me to start content creation.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. Same as well. Just really documenting the journey for me when I do create content, and it's really fun to see how many people and the people that resonate with all of that. So that's amazing. Thanks so much, Jubril, for joining me on this podcast episode today. And before you go, one more thing I wanted to ask you is that if there's anything you want to promote or share or plug, you can go ahead and do that.
Oh yes, thank you very much, Caleb. It's really exciting, joining you on this podcast. So, I would like your audience to, visit my page, the Senior Dev on YouTube. Also, same tag on Instagram, and also, I have the startup coming up. It's called decodebridge.com. Decodebridge.com. That's the startup name where I have a team of developers that we're just coming together and building applications that we can launch. In back in Nigeria, my home country. So the basically the idea is just replicating things that are working here back home, see which one will be, um, you know, accepted. So it's called the codebridge.com. It's just a platform that we created for software engineers to come and just be, dishing out their ideas. And if we see any idea that spark interest, we can fund it. So basically, that's what the platform is on for, decodebridge.com. And also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the Senior Dev, and on YouTube, the Senior Dev. And also,
Amazing.
Caleb Oni Certified. Follow him.
Of course. Um, all those links will be in the description, apart from my own. um, and of course, Jubril, thanks so much. Senior Dev, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast episode. Stay tuned for the next episode. The Tech Certified podcast is back, and we'll be back every week. So stay tuned, keep watching, and thanks so much for joining us today. We've just launched a free cloud engineer assessment to evaluate and assess your current skills on your path to becoming a cloud professional. Now, when you take this assessment, it provides some incredible recommendations for your path. And remember, this is completely free. It costs you nothing. It only helps you on your journey. So if this interests you and you are an aspiring cloud professional, definitely take this assessment. I'm going to leave a link to it. Here's an example of me taking it myself and getting some pretty good recommendations from my own assessment. So guys, check this out, and I hope this is really helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.